Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to a special Thursday live edition of Dattitude, episode number 105. We are here to talk about Saints Cardinals, and you know what? We're probably going to talk a little bit of Pelicans too. I mean, they're certainly been better than the New Orleans Saints, so we got to touch on them for sure. Doug Mouton of WWL TV here this morning with me. We welcome all your comments and questions. We're here on the NOLA.com and bet.nola.com. Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as the NOLA.com Twitter page. Again, any comments or questions, we welcome them. We will show them here on the air and talk about them with Doug Mouton. How you doing, my friend?
I am good. Look, Jim, I got to give, first of all, the compliments. Your lighting is significantly better. Your audio is great. You have learned, like my lighting is terrible. You have learned how to do this properly. I applaud the technological growth. Congratulations on that one.
Well, that's the broadcast man telling the sports writer that he's finally not looking like an idiot anymore. So we're working on it, Doug.
There's no light looking like the idiot. So
just wait till we're about a week away from, or hopefully a week away from moving our studio into the garage. Okay, and so we're gonna have a nice little setup in there. I hope soon, so you don't just have to see my wife's cushions on the sofa here in the background. And for those not listening live, I mean, the setup is it's in my den. I'm totally transparent. It is what it is. We do what we got to do.
Yeah. That's
to
my
get things going.
Right.
Exactly. So we do what we got to do here on Dattitude. But they didn't want to hear about our living rooms and our kitchen.
No. I'm sorry. Yeah.
They want to hear about our thoughts on the Saints and Cardinals on a Thursday night, Doug. A quick turnaround, and really for the Saints, that's really kind of good news, I think, because you got to get it out of your system. What has happened, last week, letting one slip away. It's not the first one the Saints have let slip away this season, and now, to me, a must-win situation tonight against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. Look, and I said must-win situation last week. Look, 2-4. The advantage is nobody in the division is better than 3-3. The other advantage is in the next 9 games, including this one, you play 0 teams that have a winning record. So these next 9, the Saints will not be overmatched. Now, they have found a way to lose games when they were not overmatched. Yeah, up until Philadelphia. Those next 9 games from Arizona to Cleveland, none of those, now for like 5 of them are 3-3, but none of those teams have winning records. None of those teams are significantly better than the Saints. Saints can play with all 9. So what do? Do they go 7-2 in those 9? Do they go 2-7? Or are they somewhere in between? Look, we don't know. And there's evidence of both, depending on how you want to look at it.
There's no, well, Gail Walker is a little rough here. She says, "How about a new coach?"
And that's the first person I've heard say that. Look,
a little early for that.
Yeah, look, you got to give the guy a chance. You got to give him a chance to figure out their problems. You got to give him. Look, the way they ran the ball, the way they played offense last week, 47% on third downs. They did a ton of things right. They took major steps forward offensively last week. Whether you want to admit that or not, it's true. They were bad in the red zone, and the real problem was that the defense was suddenly terrible. You got to figure out your defensive issues, which have not been an issue the last few years. You got to figure them out. If you do, you can still be a good team. If you don't, we can continue seeing what we're seeing. But yeah, look, my friends, the Mouton friends, the friends I grew up with, they're all ready to jump off a bridge right now, right?
The friends aren't any better.
Everybody needs to be fired. The season's over. I certainly don't agree with any of that.
The Derry friends they're really hating on me, right? I got some friends that I don't think they want to talk to me because I keep saying that when Jameis Winston is healthy, he is the best quarterback for this team, and they don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
they just don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
some of my listeners don't want to hear it either. So but it looks. That being said, it looks like Andy Dalton is going to play tonight, and again, rightfully so. If Jameis Winston is not ready, Andy Dalton has to go in there, and you go in, and I think partly as a result. And look, I put this graphic together last night. It has since changed. The Saints are now 2.5-point underdogs against the Arizona Cardinals tonight. Money line is up to plus 122. So if you think the Saints are going to win, then there's bargain on them for sure. If you have looked at my NFL picks column this morning, when we'll get to our picks in a little bit, you know what I think. But Arizona is in kind of a similar boat, Doug, as the New Orleans Saints, not just because they have the same record, But the fire Cliff Kingsbury watch is certainly on in Arizona. They are not living up to expectations at all. Kyler Murray has not had a great start. This offense can't figure things out. And so is that a positive for the Saints? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, of course it is. But look, 2.5 points, you get 2.5 basically for being at home. So Las Vegas is saying, you know what, let's see. Like these teams are even. They both haven't lived up to what they're supposed to. And look, let's see. Look, I bottom line, I still like the Saints' talent. I really do. And I still like this coaching staff. Now, I've liked them up to 2-4. I did not think they would beat the Bengals. I like their odds in this game better, and they should have beat the Bengals. And I like the odds in this game better. But yeah, look, the team has not performed up to expectations. I think fans have every right to be aggravated and upset and not happy with the way the team's playing. But at the same time, we're 6 games into a marathon. Let's let it play out a little bit more before we make grandiose projections and decisions.
All right. Gail said, even though she wants a new coach, she's still a diehard fan. And
I believe that. Diehard fans have every right to expect and to demand, a certain level of play. Just because you're a diehard doesn't mean you can't criticize the team.
Wild boy Dougie says Dennis Allen needs to go. Winston's got to go. Honey Badger's got to go. Man, he's just
right. Yes,
this is where we look when you're 2-4.
Not play the rest of the year.
Right? I mean, when you're 2-4, these are the kind of things you're going to hear from fans, and I understand the frustrations. And look, I'm frustrated too. Just because look, I'll tell you flat out. I mean, I cover the Saints as well, and not as closely as some of the other guys in the media do. I do it from a different perspective. I do it from a betting perspective more than I do from. But look, when I'm sitting at home, I'm a lifelong New Orleanian. I'm a fan too. I mean, and so of course we root for them to win. So we're frustrated at home just as much as anybody else is. But
just as much. And look, it's a good group. And look, I go on TV saying I think they're going to win, and then they come out and lose. Like, it makes me look like an idiot. Like, I don't like it from that standpoint either. The fact that they haven't been as good as I thought they would be. But I also know that there are ebbs and flows in seasons. And I still remember when Drew Brees went down in Los Angeles a few years ago, and I was getting texts from my friends saying the season's over. And it turns out that they went on when things were lowest, when they looked horrible against the Rams, then they went on the winning streak, and this wound up being one of the most fun seasons I've ever covered. So I also know things can turn, and I do believe in the talent. Now, we covered those 3 straight 7-9 Sean Payton teams.
Yes, we did.
When there was talent too, and there was Drew Brees, and he could still throw, and they couldn't win a game. And I get it. I've been there too. So
here's what scares me though about this team, and I will say this, and this is from just a personal viewpoint perspective. What scares me is I don't see the chemistry that they need to have to win. And you and I have both been in the locker room, and I'm just not seeing it. And that, so as an observer from the outside, and as one that I don't cover them on a day-to-day basis. I cover them on a weekly basis for the most part, and throughout the week from home. I just don't see that championship feel, that finish strong mentality that Drew Brees and company had. And even last year, what's the key figure that's missing? Sean Payton. So, but it's the same to me, Doug, that when you talk about losing Drew Brees, it's a major change and a major adjustment. It's the same when you lose Sean Payton. And in fact, even more so, I think. You're used to something for 16 years, and no matter how good the next coach or how rough it's always going to be tough for the next guy.
Well, sure. And that's why I think expecting there to be this period where they're figuring things out is normal. And look, I'll say this too. One of the, I do the commentaries Monday night at 10, and I watch the game multiple times. Sometimes I stay there Sunday night and watch it again at midnight. And I thought the play calling in the first couple of games was terrible and put the Saints
100%
behind the 8 ball. And I think that has gotten much better and much smarter in the last couple of weeks. Look, they weren't good in the red zone this week, and that was a new problem that they didn't have in the first few games. But I think I do think they are making positive strides offensively. I do see growth and movement. Like I said, the defense being, what is it, 28th in points allowed, that was out of the blue and didn't expect. The fact that they're not getting pressure on the quarterback is unexpected and I think is going to change. The fact that they're not getting takeaways was unexpected, and I think it's going to change. Like, I wasn't worried about the part that I was worried most about is making progress. The part I was worried least about is having troubles. And I feel like if they can get them together, I do know, I'm positive of this part, Jim. They were not overmatched by Cincinnati. They outgained about 51
100%.
yards. They controlled time of possession. They won the turnover battle. They were not overmatched, right? Like, if you're overmatched, there's nothing you can do. Like, you're going to be a bad team. In those 3, 7, and 9 years, that defense was just overmatched. They couldn't stop anybody, and it almost didn't matter how many points they scored because the other team was going to find a way to score more. This team has not been overmatched, and they won't be for the next 9 weeks. So you just got to figure out the little things and get over that hump, and I do see the possibility, at least, that they can do that. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. I agree wholeheartedly. And I mean, we go back to the line here, and I mean, evenly matched team. You have to win these kinds of games. These are the kind, and I know it's on the road. You're in the middle of a 4 out of 5 stretch where you got to go on the road on a short week, but really, it's almost to the Saints' benefit. You don't have time to think about anything you've done wrong.
I agree 100% with that.
You just got to prepare for the next game. Again, this line has changed. It's 2.5 now. The Saints are at 2.5 points. So that means the money's coming in on Arizona.
Right.
But that's okay too. I don't understand quite, because if we go back to the schedule and we talk about it a little bit, I know it's, if you're looking at this on your phone, I know it's a little small, but who are the Cardinals beat that makes you think that they beat Vegas 29-23, right, and they beat Carolina 26-16. They lost to Kansas City. They got walloped by Kansas. They didn't just lose. They got walloped. They lost to a Rams team that's showing that they're not that great this year. They played their best game of the year probably against Philadelphia and still lost. Right. And then got beat up bad by a Seattle team that came to New Orleans and lost by a touchdown. I watched a lot of that
game. Seattle really did outplay them in every way. And Seattle ran the ball effectively when they had to. There's a lot of positive signs. The Saints played Seattle a lot better than Arizona played Seattle. We can say that. Look,
I got a question. Well, I got a question for you from Charlie Smith. He says Dalton has a way better eye, obviously, thus far from Winston. I don't know if I quite agree with that. He has a better eye, but I don't know. Way better is probably a little strong. So if Dalton is doing a better job, is it mandatory that Winston comes back just because he is the starter?
No, nothing's mandatory. No, and you got to look. And let me say this: Dennis Allen has been through this before, right? He went to the Raiders and lost badly and got fired quickly because his quarterback play was bad.
Right.
I have no doubt that if it comes, he's not going down with a bad quarterback just because that's his guy. He will absolutely make changes and play the guy he thinks is best because he's been down this road before. And if he fails a second time as a head coach, there may not be a third time, and he gets that. I'm 100% sure of that. So no, nothing is mandatory. I do think Jameis's upside is better. Andy Dalton.
Zero question about that.
Look, when Jameis is right, and when he was right last year, the one thing he was doing that he was not doing early this year is running for first downs when he needed to. And he is far better athletically. He's got a better arm. He's got way more zip on the ball. Andy Dalton is a serviceable, a solid backup, a good backup. If you rank the 32 NFL backups, Andy Dalton is in the top 7 backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Would anyone really go at him as their starter? No. He's a solid backup. Jameis is better. Is he a lot better? Maybe not a lot better, but he's a little better for sure, and he gives you a better upside. But there's nothing mandatory. And if you think Dalton's getting it done, great. And Dalton's been pretty good. I don't think Andy Dalton's shown us anything that makes you say, this is our guy, we got to ride this pony. Like, I don't think he's shown that. But I do think he's done some good things.
Well, you look at the numbers here, and I'm going to say this. Look, I agree with you in the fact that I think that the Saints, if you talk about Winston versus Dalton, Winston's upside is you can't question that his upside is higher than Dalton. But his floor is probably lower than Dalton's as well.
His floor is definitely lower.
Dalton's a more steady kind of quarterback.
Right. No doubt. But look, the interception he threw against Seattle was inexcusable and terrible. He has been far from flawless. He's right in the middle of the pack. I think he's 15th in quarterback rating, which is about what he's been. He's been okay. Jameis has the ability to be really good. And Jameis, look, to me, I'm always betting on upside. Always. Yeah. I don't want the guy who is going to be, if they're both at their worst, that guy's going to be better. I want the guy who's going to be better on their upside, the guy who gives you a chance to beat anybody, and that's Jameis Winston. And look, do I think the Saints are going to need to go out and get a quarterback in the offseason? Without question. But that we're not in the offseason. We're in the middle of this thing, and who gives you a better chance to win? Jameis Winston at 100%. But I like what they're doing with this in the sense right now. They're not playing Jameis at 80%, and I'm 100% on board with that.
As am I. 100% behind it, and so I don't want my comments to be misconstrued. If even though I think Jameis has to be the starting quarterback on this team, is it mandatory? No, nothing's mandatory. But I mean, if you look at these numbers, and I put this graphic on the screen to kind of illustrate a point. The passing offensive numbers have actually gone down since Dalton has taken over. Yeah. Now, I get that Michael Thomas is gone, but he's been gone most of the year. He only played, 1.5 games so far this year? Jarvis Landry hasn't played much either. So it's not because those guys are gone. The rushing offense has gotten much better, and it's kind of weird. 7th in rushing, 15th in passing, but overall the Saints yardage-wise are 5th in the NFL. And when Jameis left, they were either 8th or 9th. I don't remember. So that passing number is actually going down because they were 12th in passing offense when Jameis left.
Well, look, that goes back to what I said before. I think the play calling has gotten infinitely better. And
way better.
This Saints team is built to run the ball.
Way better.
This Saints team is built to run the ball, and they have done it exceptionally well the last 2 weeks. And look, I love the battle. You saw Arizona 7th in rush defense. I love strength on strength. Cincinnati going into that game was top 10 in rush defense. Saints ran for over 200 yards against them. They're not top 10 anymore. So the Saints do have the ability to run the ball against teams that can stop the run. Like, I love that strength on strength battle, and I think the Saints are going to win that battle. Again, they won that battle against Cincinnati, still found a way to lose the game. So it doesn't guarantee you anything.
Charlie Good's at a good point. It's still too early to tell. Fans panic about anything. And look, it's the same as, there were fans that were coming on this show and on the Bayou Bet show before the season, and the Saints are going 14-3 and blah blah. Look, I was on I thought they would go. I thought they would go 10-7, and they still can.
Oh, they absolutely still can.
I mean, but expectations change.
AFC champions, and the Saints outplayed them. I know they lost, but throw out the final result and look at the body of work in that game. The Saints can play with anybody. They obviously have to get over the hump. And look, here's the flip side of that. And I know I tend to be overly optimistic, but the flip side of that is bad teams tend to find ways to lose. And somebody brought up to me, like, Detroit was the perfect example last year. They kept getting this close to winning and losing, and this close to winning and losing. Like, they just kept finding ways to lose. And the Saints were losing with penalties and turnovers. Penalties were good this week. They did great. They won the turnover battle. And then this red zone, they were horrible in the red zone, offensively and defensively. It was a new way to lose, and they found a new way. So the flip side is, what do you believe more? Do you believe the team that was not overmatched by Cincinnati and played well and ran the ball and controlled the clock, all the things that normally mean, is that who this team really is? Or are they really the team that's going to keep finding ways to lose? And really, it depends on what you want to believe and where your heart is. And look, people my age tend to go the other way, Jim, and you know this because we had years and years of the Saints finding ways to lose. So there's a lot of people my age that automatically go to, oh, this is over. There's no chance, it's done. Because literally your entire childhood, the Saints were so bad that
past our childhood.
What's that?
Well past our childhood.
Well past our child, right. But then there's also a new generation right now that's used to the Saints finding ways to win for the last 13 years.
Yeah, and it's hard to even think about it. But if you think about someone that's like, let's say someone that's 35 years old. I mean, really, since they graduated high school, all they've known is Sean Payton and Drew
Yeah.
Brees. So they had a major adjustment without Drew Brees, and now they're having a major adjustment with Sean Payton. So it's easy to think. But you look at last year. I mean, the Detroit Lions are 3-13-1, and the Saints were 9-8. Was there really that big of a difference between the New Orleans Saints and the Detroit Lions last year? I don't think so.
No, well, geez, last year will go down as the most bizarre season of all time. I mean,
there's no question.
Or the COVID year too. I mean, some of these games the last 2 years have just been so. I think about that Denver game and how bizarre it was that the NFL wanted to penalize Denver because of the way they did their protocols. So they made them play with no quarterbacks. Like, it was the craziest game. They had no quarterback. It's an NFL team playing a game with a guy who literally couldn't throw a forward pass.
Worked out for the Saints.
Yeah, and then last year, the Saints having to play that Dolphins game with me and you out there playing.
Yeah.
Like, who was the left tackle? What was that guy's name? Literally, he played one game in a Saints uniform and didn't block anybody. Like, they're playing with, like,
poor Ian Book,
guys we've never heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, the bizarreness of the last 2 years. When the Saints were good last year, they beat the hell out of Green Bay last year. I mean, they just beat them.
And shut Tampa Bay out.
Yes, and destroyed Tampa Bay. Like, that team had this crazy ceiling that they never could get to because of the stupidness of the whole last 2 years.
Jim Derry here with Doug Mouton on this Thursday morning as we preview Saints Cardinals. Again, we're going to talk just a little bit about the Pelicans coming up a little bit. Jeff Duncan will be on tomorrow morning live at 9:15 once again. He is in Glendale, Arizona. It was better for him to come on Friday. Doug happily switched to come on this morning. So, Duncan, we made a little switcheroo in our programming, if that's what you're wondering why Jeff Duncan isn't on this morning, and it's Doug. Again, Jeff will be back tomorrow morning, and we will rehash whatever it is we have seen. We don't know what we're going to see tonight. I mean, Hagan says, what's good? Well, we hope the Saints are good. We don't know. We don't know.
Pelicans were good.
I mean, the Pelicans were really good. But
all right, good. Hell, LSU last week was really good.
LSU was outstanding. And
I mean, it was all good, kind of, except the Saints.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about LSU because I find that line, and I don't have a graphic for that line, but I find their line super interesting, and I do want to touch on that just for a tinge. But I want to go back to this graphic, and when you talk about matchups, it goes to show both of these teams, if you look at the numbers, have underachieved, obviously, 2 and 4. I mean, the Saints are 5th in offense and mediocre in defense, so it's supposed to be flip-flop. The Saints are supposed to be fifth or so in defense and mediocre in offense. They've actually been pretty decent in offense. The problem is last week, if you look, getting so conservative and playing not to lose, Doug, they got to change that tonight. I think they have to be super aggressive. I think they learned some things from last week. I think they will be super aggressive. But Arizona, a little different than Cincinnati. Cincinnati doesn't have the greatest rushing defense. Arizona is 7th against the run, 20th against the pass. Saints going to have to be a little creative tonight. And then the rushing. Is tonight the night that Kyler Murray gets it going? He gets DeAndre Hopkins back. They don't have Hollywood Brown. And James Conner is banged up again, as he always is. So these matchups, does it favor the Saints or the Cardinals?
Oh, who knows at this point? Look, the red zone problems last week were not a problem any other week. That's what has been so maddening about this season is that before this game, they were 80% getting touchdowns in the red zone. Before this game, they had been in the red zone 15 times and gotten 12 touchdowns. 80% is outstanding. Top 5 in the NFL. That's great. And then in this one game, they went 1 for 5 in the red zone. They're still 65% in the getting touchdowns when they get to the red zone. That's still 6th best in the NFL right now, which is good. It was you hope that was a one-time anomaly. And then even on defense, the defense had been terrific. Defense had given up too many points, but a lot of those points were long plays. So when teams had actually gotten in a red zone, the Saints had done a nice job until Cincinnati. They get there 3 times, they get 3 touchdowns. And one of those was the one on Joe Burrow's run when they did a terrific job on him, collapsed the pocket, and Burrow did what Burrow does and found a way to escape. It was just a great player making a great play. And that one was one of the killers of this game. But look, you can also look at it this way. The Saints offense, which was supposed to be the Achilles heel, got the ball 10 times last week and they scored 6 times. I know 6 of those 4 of those 6 were field goals, but you score 6 times out of 10. You score 26 points with that defense, and you should win. I don't put much of the problems from the Cincinnati loss on the offense. I put 95% of it on the defense, just not being able to get off the field.
We're about 7 or 8 minutes away from making our predictions here because I got to spend at least 5 to 8 minutes on LSU and the Pelicans before we go off the air with Doug. So we're about 7 or 8 minutes away. If you want to make your prediction or you have a comment or a question, feel free to leave it in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube pages, and I will show it on the air. So make your game predictions now. Again, we'll put it up on the screen. Thursday night game in October. We talked about October, the prowess that the Saints have had. We're talking about that a little bit less now that they've lost. But still, I don't know if you realize this or not, the Saints have won 9 consecutive road games in October. Does that mean anything now that there's a new coach and you're talking about a lot of this from the Drew Brees era? Does it mean anything?
No, I don't think so. And look, I always liked Sean Payton's chances on Thursday nights, or anytime there was weirdness like that, anytime you were going to go to London, or anytime you were going to, I always liked in the same little box. I always liked Sean Payton's opportunity to do something a little smarter and a little better than the other coach. I don't know if that's the case anymore. We don't have a body of evidence to believe that. I do agree with you from the beginning that it's good to wash your mouth out from Sunday and get a game Thursday. And I'm hoping this team plays a little more angry than they have. It's time to start figuring this out and get a little mad and find your leaders and get stuff done. The one thing that's scary is no Marshawn Lattimore. You feel a lot better
Very much so.
out there. Look, Mike Thomas and Jarvis Landry are coming back. I would certainly feel better if they were there. But I don't think if you play Chris Olave and the way they're running the ball with Marquez Callaway and the other guys, I don't think it's really hurt them a huge amount.
You really need Lattimore back next week because we don't know how much DeAndre Hopkins is going to play tonight. I mean, he's been in suspension for 6 games. Right. You can't just. I mean, he can come back in and play a lot. I don't expect him to be in there more than probably 50-60% of the time. We'll see how that goes. Right. But it's really important to have Lattimore back next week when the Saints host the Raiders against Devontae Adams, who very well could be the bbest receiver in the NFL. So
for sure. And they're kind of one-trick pony right now. They haven't been great. So if you can take away that, like that, but I don't want to look ahead to that yet because if you're 2-5 going,
you got to win 3 and 4.
That is rough. Jeez, that is
got to get to 3 and 4 for sure. All right, there are other trends. I write a big trends column every Sunday morning. I had to write it on Thursday morning this time, and a lot of these things are meaningless, but a lot of them I don't know if they're meaningless, but they're interesting for sure. And here's a stat for you: the Saints on Thursday in their history. All right. What do you think the Saints' record is on Thursdays?
Oh, I don't know.
In their franchise history.
I'm trying to remember how far back the Thursdays go. How many total games?
17 for the Saints. They played 17 Thursday games.
I'm trying to remember the Thursdays, and they don't stick out. So most of them have to be in the Sean Payton era. So is it something like 11? All of them are?
Oh, a lot of them are.
A lot of them. Yeah. Is it something around 11-6?
No, you're off. They are 8 and 9 on Thursdays.
Oh.
But that includes 2 losses last year. They played on Thursday twice last year.
That's right. Yes.
So, but here's an interesting, weird stat. 7 of the Saints' 17 Thursday games have come against Atlanta. And they're 5-2 in those games. Okay. So they are 3-7 against everyone else on Thursday nights. 2-6 against teams outside of the NFC South. But that being said, Arizona has lost 5 consecutive Thursday games.
Oh, wow.
The last time they won on a Thursday was in 2016 against San Francisco, and it is not the longest drought on Thursdays in team history. The Cardinals lost 11 in a row Thursday games from 1950 when they were the Chicago Cardinals through 2013. They lost 11 Thursday games in a row.
Yeah. Wow.
They are 3-9. They are 3-9 as the Desert Beak Men, as a friend of mine used to like to call them. 3-9 in Phoenix on Thursday night. So they don't have a great Thursday record either. What does that mean for tonight?
And actually, when you said Thursdays, the ones I was remembering were Atlanta games. But yeah, was Buffalo last year? Was that the Thursday?
Buffalo and Dallas last year.
Geez, that Buffalo game was horrible. It's when the Saints had half a team.
Right.
Just the stupidness of the last 2 years it's been bizarre.
All right. Well, I do want to get to our predictions because I don't want the show to go too long.
Right.
I know you got a lot going on today.
I got it.
And I do want to touch Pels and LSU. So again, last chance if you want to get your predictions in, you can send them in. Gail Walker, she says the Saints win tonight. All right. And I'm going to get your prediction first. It's tough to predict this team right now. I mean, I've been wrong a lot this year. And, usually, again, I'm called Derry Downer for a reason. And I for some reason, it just happened. I looked at an analysis and where the Saints are, and I predicted the Saints. Now, I haven't predicted them to cover every week, but I predicted them to win every week this season. It is hard. This talent, they are underachieving. Yeah. What do they do tonight, Doug?
Well, I predicted them to lose to Cincinnati, and unfortunately, I was right, and I didn't want to be, and I thought I was wrong halfway through the game. I was like, I'm so glad to be wrong. Look, I think the Saints win tonight. I still believe in this talent. I still believe in this coaching staff. I don't have enough evidence yet that this season is gone or lost or whatever, because I've seen poor starts. Now, this start is stretching. I've seen poor starts in the last 5 years suddenly get turned around and the team catches a roll and wins 6 or 7 or 8 in a row. I've seen it. It has happened with a lot of these guys on the field. Hasn't happened with this head coach. But I like the Saints' talent, and I watched Arizona last week against Seattle, and they were a train wreck. And the Saints were not a train wreck. The Saints outplayed Cincinnati and found a way to lose. Arizona just got outplayed in every way and lost. So I'm going to go with the Saints tonight, and I hope I'm right.
Well, I think the same. I mean, I'm doing it again. So, I mean, you can only bang your head against the wall so many times. And if they lose,
keep doing it.
If they lose, they lose tonight, there's no way I'm picking them next week. I can tell you that right now. If they lose tonight, I mean, I don't know what I'm picking next week, but I know that if the Saints lose tonight, I think this team goes south in a hurry.
Yeah, well, look, south in a hurry is definitely in the realm of possibilities.
It is. Unfortunately, it is.
Catching a roll and winning these next 9 or not winning 7 of these next 9 is also in the realm of possibilities.
You know what's sick is they have the serious potential to, like you say, win 7 of 9. They also have the potential to lose like 8 in a row too.
They absolutely do. I know.
I mean, it's the craziest thing.
It's bizarro world, and it's all possible right now, depending on what point of view you come from.
Well, I will say this. I think the Saints are the better team. I think the Saints are actually the better coach team, which it's hard to say against almost anyone right now because the Saints
on talent. Look, that's me too.
Yeah.
And look, I'm betting on upside. I'm betting on talent. I would bet the Saints in this game. Now, I will say this. I am not betting this game. I would not actually put my money on this game, but if you're going to make me make a pick, I like the Saints.
I actually have the Saints in a teaser. I think that, and I don't know if you're probably not.
Yeah, but you're the king. Yes.
Hey, man, it's been working.
Master of this new world.
21-9 this season. 21-9 this season with my best bets against the spread. So I mean, that's I'm winning. I'm not winning enough for myself because I don't bet big enough. I mean,
let me say this: I am 0% surprised by that.
Well, I mean, right. You got to pick the right. You got to make the right picks, and I think that even if the Saints lose, and if for those not familiar with the betting world, what do you do in a teaser? Is it's kind of like a parlay. You have to pick 2 teams. You get a bonus in the fact that you get 6 points added to the spread for each team. The only caveat is you have to win both of them to win the bet, and it's a -120 bet, which means you got to either bet $12 to win 10, you bet $120 to win 100.
Let me ask you one quick question.
You got to pay a little extra juice.
Yeah,
go ahead.
One quick betting question. In the new world of betting, you still like betting with point spreads better than just betting straight up with the plus 120?
It depends on what it is, and it depends on what the sport is.
Point spreads. Now, if I'm going to bet a game, I now always bet one team to win, one team to lose, whatever. I hate the point spreads. The problem is, just take, for example, if you want to bet Tampa Bay this week, okay? You think Carolina really stinks, and you want to bet on Tampa Bay. Are you actually going to lay $55 to win 10? Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not
yeah,
going to do
with
that.
the guaranteed 10. Yeah, I bet Aaron Judge to win the American League MVP.
There are no. Did you watch the Tampa Bay Pittsburgh game?
They're giving me money.
Did you watch the Tampa Bay Pittsburgh game? There is no such thing as. Did you watch the Green Bay and the Jets game?
Right. No.
Did you watch the Ravens and the Giants?
I'm saying if in my head it's a guarantee. No, there is no guarantee. Of course not. But if I'm sure of something like that, Aaron Judge is going to be the American League MVP, I'm going to bet that. Even if my payout is not much.
The OG, Sean the Don says, "Who dat for life, baby?" And my friend Alton Humphrey, we call him Slugger.
That's a lot of words.
That is a lot of words. So I don't know how much I can read of all this, Slugger, but we're going to give you another chance, as they say. He thinks the Saints win, but they won't win 6 or 7 in a row. I don't think anyone's going to think the Saints are going to win 6 or 7 in a row. We just said they're capable of. Dennis Allen is not the answer. I don't know that he is the answer, but I don't know that he's not the answer.
Judgment in 6 games.
We don't know that he's not the answer.
Oakland was terrible. Yes, he deserved to be fired in Oakland, but that's 10 years ago. He's a different guy. He has run spectacular defenses for the last 6 years in New Orleans, 5 years in New Orleans. I don't know how you can, except with emotion, I don't know how you can intellectually make the decision that he's done and he has no chance to be a good NFL head coach based on 6 games.
Except for Nathaniel Hackett in Denver, who I think has done just an awful.
You don't think he could figure it out?
I mean, I think he's proven that he's not an NFL head coach. But I think except in very rare cases, the judgment on a coach after 6 games is absurd.
Yeah,
it is absolutely absurd. You cannot say a coach should be fired or he's great. I mean, there are coaches that go,
could be 5-1 right
5-1, exactly. I mean, do we think that Brian Daboll is the best thing since sliced bread?
That's a perfect example.
The Giants are 5-1. Do we think the Giants
for 10 years now?
Exactly. I mean,
look, 10-year contract.
I was high on the Giants for the season, and a lot of it had to do because of Brian Daboll. But that doesn't mean the Giants won't finish 8-9 or 7-10.
Too, it's a lot easier for us in New Orleans to make a rational evaluation of the Giants than it is for us to make a rational evaluation of the Saints. I guarantee you, football fans in New York are saying, give Daboll a 10-year contract.
Exactly.
Dennis Allen, I don't know. We don't know yet. The jury's still out. Like, they could be more rational about New Orleans. Anyway,
well, it's always like that, more rational in New Orleans. And Uncle Big Nick, who will be on the show tomorrow, chiming in. Belichick had a losing record in Cleveland, and New England gave him a chance. I think that probably worked out okay.
It did. I'm not sure I want to put that kind of stigma on Dennis Allen.
Yeah, we're not comparing to Bill Belichick. No.
But yeah,
we're not going there. But look, I like the Saints in a teaser, and I'm going to tease them with the Las Vegas Raiders, who they're right now. The Raiders are a 7-point favorite, which means you get the Saints at 8.5. You get 8.5 points with the Saints, and you get the Raiders at -1 over the Houston Texans. So that is going to be one of my best bets of the week, actually.
I do. Saints plus 8.5. I would bet that.
Saints plus 8.5, and then the Raiders basically just need the win over the Texans at home after a bye week. I like that one. So
wow.
That's
a reason you're the betting dude. Yeah.
Well, you gotta find them. So, but look, and Mark says Raiders are coming next week. They are, and like Doug and I said, we're not looking ahead.
Yeah, you
got to win this one. You got to go 2-4, and then you'll see what happens.
Tonight, it's going to be rough.
Oh well, let's think positive, and I don't.
The locker room is going to be rough.
It is. All right, real quick, LSU this week, Ole Miss. Again, I don't have a graphic for the line on this game, but I don't understand it at all, which means I will completely stay away from it. If I had to bet on it, I don't see how you can't take Ole Miss. I don't understand why LSU is favored. It makes 0 sense to me, but I don't know. The guys with lots of money and the ladies with lots of money who do this for a living, they think LSU is going to win this week. What do you think?
Look, first of all, LSU took major strides forward last week in the Swamp. That was a great win for Brian Kelly. I never thought this was going to be the year that LSU was going to a New Year's Day bowl game, right? I think in Brian Kelly's first year with the amount of unknown, you have to put the expectations realistic. And what they did against Tennessee was what can happen against a top 10 team. Now we see Tennessee might be the best team in the country. I don't think Ole Miss is that good, but I do think Ole Miss is significantly better than LSU at this moment in time. I like Ole Miss's chances to win this game. I still like everything Brian Kelly's done. That's not an anti-LSU thing. It's just I don't think they're ready to play with a top 10 team in the country yet. And I do think Ole Miss is legitimately – they're 7 right now, legitimately a top 10 team in the country. And I don't think LSU is there yet.
Lane Kiffin
I'm positive they're not there yet. But I like Ole Miss Saturday. I'd love to be wrong.
Lane Kiffin will find a way to screw that team up. I think it's an overrated, overhyped coach. I know people like that style, and Ole Miss fan. Look, compared to what Ole Miss has had in the past, he's fantastic.
Right.
But I think he's overrated and overhyped, and I don't think they're ever going to win anything big with him as a coach. Now, they can be what they are now and be 9 and 10 win teams, which, again, is a major upgrade for Ole Miss.
Yeah,
and he's a good recruiter.
In the country. I mean, they're 7th in the country.
Yeah, well, that's
the first college football playoff poll's not out yet, but if that was out, I think that's about where they'd be.
When they play Alabama, they're going to get the hinges.
Yeah, we'll see. And we'll see when we get there. I am really curious to see how they match up with LSU. But Ole Miss has looked good so far this year.
Yeah, and LSU's defense at times, not every game, but at times has been outstanding.
I just wish Mason Smith hadn't gone down right off the bat.
That hurts.
But yeah, no, LSU's got some talented pieces. They've also still got this crazy amount of unknown. But I do think they made real positive strides against Florida in a big way, which gives them more of a chance this week. But I would not bet for LSU to be top 10 good at this point.
That is a stay away game for me. But I will say this: if you got the over on the LSU at the 7 wins, if you got the over on that.
Yeah.
If LSU wins this game, I think you're golden. I mean, I think the Saints. I think LSU could win if they win this one. I think they're better than Texas A&M. Really, I think they're at this point. I think they're better than Arkansas. Will they win both of them? I don't know, but I think they're going to win one of them.
Right.
They're not going to beat Alabama
against Florida. Makes them competitive against all those.
Yeah,
and makes all those interesting.
Yes, for sure. So. Big game this week, and it's going to be fun. All right, Slugger, we'll give you one more chance. Ole Miss is who they are and always be. Remember, LSU took a knee with 5 minutes left inside the 5-yard line. Forgot about that. All right, want to talk about the Pelicans real quick. We got about just a couple minutes left. Doug, man, there's one thing to win, and then there's this. I mean, how do you beat the Nets? I expected them to win. It was our best bet of the day yesterday. So I expected the Pelicans to come out and win because I don't think anyone knows who this team is. But to come out and beat the Nets 130-108 in a game that they were never really threatened. Once the third quarter started, they were on fire. They got to go to the Hornets tonight. Hopefully there's no letdown there tonight at 6 o'clock, and then they come home and Sunday night. No Saints, so you can watch the Pelicans.
Friday night.
The Hornets are.
Wait, that's not tonight, is it?
Yeah, I think it's tonight. I'm pretty sure it's tonight. Did I mess that up?
I'm looking right now.
Wouldn't be the first time that I messed it up. Let's
that's Friday night.
Friday night. Okay. Well, ignore my graphic that says tonight. Yeah. So it's Friday.
I'm sorry.
Night.
I don't mean to point out.
I'm glad you did. No, please.
Sometimes we're like
no. I welcome
fully through it and try and hope people don't notice.
Oh no, I'm never like that. I welcome that. Please always correct me, and viewers, please correct me. But anyway,
actually, Pelicans Wednesday, Saints Thursday, Pelicans Friday. LSU and Tulane Saturday, Pelicans home opener Sunday. Like that's
and prep football, and I'm going to the Parish tomorrow night to cover Chalmette and Everett, doing broadcast for VSN. That's going to be fun. It's a very busy weekend, but just talk about how impressed you were about what you saw.
Well, look, the one question was how does Zion fit in with a group that was playing well at the end of the year? And the answer is beautifully. The way it was unselfish. It was, look, your big three all found their points and played unselfishly. I'm talking about CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. The defense was plenty good enough. This team can score in so many ways. Look, it's a nice mix of young players and a couple of veterans like Valanciunas and McCollum. Look, this team is dangerous. We were setting the bar at hopefully being the 4th, 5th, 6th seed in the West. I mean, look, it's one game in, but it shows what they can be at their best. And what they could be at their best is a really good team. And if you didn't like this team before and you saw that game, you'd like them now. And they're going to start getting national TV games added. They were fun to watch. Look, all trends are going up.
I have some interesting numbers for you. I know you don't dive into the betting world, but you do. You like it.
I like to dabble, and I find it super interesting.
Here's an interesting number for you. The Pelicans started the week on Caesars Sportsbook.
Yeah.
To win the NBA championship, they were 30-1, meaning you could bet. Well, it's plus 3,000, which means if you put $100 down on the Pelicans and they win the NBA championship, you get $3,000. That's pretty easy to understand.
Yeah.
It dropped to before yesterday's game. It went from 30-1 to 27-1 with one victory against the Brooklyn Nets on Caesars Sportsbook. It went from 27-1 to win the championship to 20-1.
Oh, wow.
That is so. Now you could still get them. I went on this morning. You got to shop around. If you're a bettor, you can't just have one sportsbook. You got to have like 4 or 5. I'm not kidding. Not only do you get great bargains, and look, we're the official odds partner of Caesars Sportsbook, so we dangerously tread around these sorts of things. But BetMGM, they're still 35-1. You go jump on there and put a little bet on them. They're 30-1 on DraftKings. So if you have either of those two books, if you don't, go get them. But I'd say 35-1 and 30-1. That's worth $10.
Oh, it doesn't hurt. Oh, winning a championship, that's a whole different level. I'm not thinking that way at this point.
I'll tell you what, the way they played in the playoffs last year, and this team coming, you always say that about teams. You're like, doggone it, I should have put some money on it.
I know, right.
So why not? Why not the Pelicans? There's no one that I love besides the Warriors.
Look, 8 of the first 11 are on the road, and the hope before that was, 5-6 or even 6-5 after those first 11. Now you look at it and this team looks good. This team obviously got to keep everybody healthy. That's 100% the issue. But man, that big three, like they fit together so nice in that game.
Other than the Warriors, there's no one that I don't think the Pelicans just don't match up against. I think
I'm not yet. I even want to see that because there's no human that matches up with Zion when
that's
he's
true.
On and you got guys where he doesn't have to do everything. I mean, Ingram and McCollum and look, Trey Murphy hit 4 threes, and that is something that's really going to matter in close games. Is you give it to Zion on the inside, and just let him kick it out. I mean, that's the whole nature of this offense. And if you got guys who can hit threes, you can beat anybody.
All right. Well, final thoughts, Doug Mouton, before we go off here. Saints Cardinals. We both think the Saints are going to win tonight. What must the Saints do right as our final thought before we go off the air? What must they do to win this game and come away at 3-4?
Well, I got to run the ball. I mean, look, they ran it last week and lost, but you got to run it. You got to control the clock. You got to do all those things that they did successfully last week. It's the winning formula. It's what this team does best. Arizona's 7th in the NFL in rush defense. It's strength on strength. That makes it fun. But Cincinnati was top 10 too before the Saints ran for over 200 yards on them. You run right at them. You use Kamara as much as you can. You get Taysom Hill 7 or 8 carries in there too, and let's see what happens. If they run the ball and control time of possession, I still love their chances to win, and I still like this team despite the fact that it didn't work against Cincinnati.
Put me on record. I'm in complete 100% agreement with Doug Mouton. That doesn't happen every day.
No, that rarely happens.
But it happens today. Someone from Canada, I got to put this up before someone from Peter Provost from Canada is saying, go Card. Hey, we welcome Cardinals fans to listen into.
And we welcome Canadians.
Yeah, Canadians are fine. I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays, I had them a ticket on them. They didn't.
I love the Blue Jays,
but they didn't come through. It's all good. And speaking of baseball, Doug Mouton, winner of the Billy Rainey League. I mean, he wrested the championship after back-to-back titles by the Dairy Bombs, the dugouts.
Wait, where did we finish? I'm trying to remember.
It was bad. It was bad. I did that. Look, 21 years in this league. I was fighting all the way through. I have never finished last, and I refused to finish last, and I didn't. So I accomplished my goal of not finishing. I finished 9th.
Look, I bought pitching. I bought it heavy. I went after my guys.
It was ugly.
Well, my big hitter was Manny Machado. I spent my money.
That's who mine was for 2 years. Manny Machado's been on a championship team in the BRL for 3 straight years now.
His third base is so bad in the National League, and Austin Riley was already a keeper.
I had Arenado.
Money on Manny Machado, and it was the smartest move I ever made.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes next year. I'll be back in this thing.
Keeper too. He won't be on the market. I can tell you that.
I'll be back in this thing next year. We'll see how it goes. Doug, thank you for joining us on this Thursday. 4th down and 4 this Sunday night, and then the Saints are back on Channel 4 the following week against the Raiders. Channel 4 next week.
Thursday night special. Whenever the games are on Channel 4, we'll have a Thursday night special to get you ready for the Raiders game.
We'll be looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm sure well before the season's over. If not, we'll have a hot dog in the dome.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Jim.
All right, talk to you later.